What's going on? Welcome back to Off the Schneid. Today we're going to take a look at the Indianapolis Colts, talking about their draft needs heading into the 2022 NFL Draft. Free agency's kind of trickling by, trades are kind of wrapping up sort of thing, and teams are focusing on the NFL Draft in a couple weeks here. Obviously, this team made a pretty big splash, bringing in Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons, trading away Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders. That was a one-year experiment that they kind of gave up on. Supposedly he just wasn't a good fit. They didn't like his style, didn't like his leadership style, that sort of a thing. People like to hate on Carson Wentz. They had their reasons and they moved on, and that's fine. But I think that, like, stats-wise and as an NFL quarterback, Carson Wentz is absolutely an NFL quarterback. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions on this team. It's just had a hard time winning those ball games, especially that game against Jacksonville is unacceptable, and I think every Colts fan would agree with that. So I like the move. I like the change up. You could definitely call it an upgrade. Matt Ryan is a former MVP, former Super Bowl, quarterback, didn't win, but he's been there, sort of a thing. So I think that leadership can absolutely take this team to the next level, but he's going to need some weapons. So let's start it out with at quarterback. We'll talk about Matt Ryan a little bit more. I think he's going to be, like I said, a bit of an upgrade. I think the offensive lines are actually relatively similar. Atlanta's offensive line is actually pretty good, and it is improving, but this should be an upgrade as long as they address these two team needs right here. So backup quarterback, Sam Ehlinger, sure. James Morgan. I think Sam Ehlinger is definitely the backup quarterback here, and that's fine. He played some games last year, played in the preseason as well, so he's okay. I'm fine with Sam Ehlinger backing up Matt Ryan as long as Matt Ryan is my guy, which he obviously is. Move over to running back, Jonathan Taylor. If not the best, one of the best, and I think he is number one for sure. Running back in the NFL right now, he can do a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball. He's obviously got great speed. He can run with power. He can do it all. He's a phenomenal running back. And then Nyheim Hines is still there to spell him in the passing game, third downs sometimes. He's a phenomenal pass catcher as well, and has a bit of a nose for the end zone. So Nyheim Hines is a quality guy to have on your team. Jordan Wilkins and Marla Mack are both gone now, so I think they need to address it. Maybe not in the draft. If they do, maybe one of their 6th or 7th round pick, something like that, just for another camp body, and hopefully he makes the team. But more likely in free agency, I think they could bring in a veteran guy and just have him as a third running back, third or fourth running back, that sort of a thing. But it's not really a priority for me, just because you have those two guys. But you're gonna need a third. Tight ends, they could address as well. I mean, it depends on what they think about Kylen Granson. We didn't really see a ton of him. He looked good in spots, I thought. He didn't get a ton of routes, didn't get a ton of action or targets or anything like that. But in the small samples that I saw of Kylen Granson, he looked okay. And we'll see if he gets that chance to make the next step this year. And Mo Alley Cox has just been around a long time. He's a solid vet. He can get the job done. He's had some pop-off weeks, that sort of a thing. He's definitely a decent blocker, so he's okay there. But they might look to address it. One of those 5th-round picks, if they want to grab a tight end, I'd be okay with that. It depends on how they feel about Kylen Granson, to be honest with you. Let's move to the offensive line, which, it's in a great spot for 3 positions. Ryan Kelly is fantastic, Braden Smith is fantastic, and Quentin Nelson is probably the best guard in the NFL. There's a huge black hole right now at left tackle for this team. Does Eric Fisher come back? I don't know. He's still a free agent. Julian Davenport's gone, and he probably will not be back. He had a bit of a rough year. But if Eric Fisher comes back, it's fine. It completes this line. Realistically, I think that's their only option, and I'm not really sure what they're waiting for, unless he's not healthy or something like that. But there's really not any free agents that they could add and feel happy, starting at left tackle. And will you be able to get the guy at 42 overall to be your left tackle of the right now and future? I don't know. That's a risky proposition if you ask me. If I'm the Colts, if I'm Ballard, I bring back Eric Fisher, on maybe a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, something like that. Something easy that I can, if I do want to get him off my team, I can next year. And I still address that left tackle position because you're going to need a guy of still the right now and the future. as well as right guard. There's, Will Fries is a decent swing, depth guy. I'm not sure I'm going to trust him as my starting right guard, for a team that's going to be fairly run heavy, does a lot of play action, stuff like that. I'm going to address those two positions. And maybe they can address right guard in free agency still. I haven't looked at who's remaining at free agents. I did look at left tackle, and it is very, very bleak. So I go ahead and bring back Eric Fisher. I draft a left tackle. Maybe I address right guard in both again. Maybe, a free agent and the draft, but it's just a little less of a, point of need in the draft if, it's an interior lineman sort of a thing. Left tackle is a premium position, as we all know. So we'll see what they do, but, they got to do something, because that's just realistically, Matt Pryor is not acceptable to be your starting left tackle. He's really not. Move to the wide receiver position. Michael Pittman Jr. I really, 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 really like. I think he's going to take another step forward this year, push that potentially, 1,400 yard mark, push that double digit touchdown. He might even get to both 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, something like that. But they're going to need some help here. And, if Paris Campbell can stay healthy, fantastic. Ashton Doolin might be able to do some good things. I do like Mike Straken as well, but, late round pick, he's got to catch up. Kiki Cutie just hasn't been able to stay healthy in his NFL career. So they're going to need some help, whether they add, another, guy like Juice Landry to me would be fantastic in this offense. In my opinion, he would fit like a glove, and they could absolutely use him. So I would probably look to grab a guy like that, or somebody that's remaining in free agency, and address it in the draft, third, fourth, fifth rounds, something like that. Grab a wide receiver that can come in and play some meaningful downs and meaningful snaps for this team starting this year. So that's the offense. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. Gus Bradley's defense. This is a good unit. They just, it's easier on the defensive coordinator. It's easier on Gus Bradley having so many good leaders on this defense. DeForest Buckner, and one on every level. DeForest Buckner on the defensive line, Darius Leonard as a, middle linebacker, and then Kenny Moore on the back end. They have a leader, and they're all difference makers as well at every level of this defense. And, they just do not accept mediocrity. They just do not. I don't care where you're drafted. Darius Leonard was a second round pick in 2018. He, by all accounts, as we look at it now, he should have been a top 10 pick. It doesn't matter where you get picked. Even, Zaire Franklin, 7th round pick in the same draft year as Darius Leonard, and he's stuck with this team and has played a decent role, in his career. So, Isaiah Rodgers, 6th round pick. I'll get to him in a little bit, but yeah, they just do not accept it. I don't care where you're drafted, and that's great leadership on the field. So it makes it a lot easier for Gus Bradley, in my opinion. They do have some holes, so let's go over it here. We'll start on the defensive line. Obviously, Yannick Ngakoue comes in. I don't think he's had less than 8 sacks in his career, to be honest with you, so I think that he's going to be fantastic for this defense. And he's going to really help Kwity Paye on the other side, who finished with only 4 sacks as a rookie. But, he had a little bit of health issues, I believe, early on in the season. But he's going to have to progress. And I think there's no reason to think he won't, push that 8 sack mark. If Yannick Ngakoue can be at around 10, at or above 10. Same thing with DeForest Buckner, 8 to 10, right around there. And then Kwity Paye, if he can push around that mark as well, they're going to be a quality unit at getting after the quarterback. So that was a great get for them, bringing in Yannick Ngakoue. Dayo Odeingbo is a 2nd round pick last year. He had some health issues early in the year. He did play for this team, but it's hard to see as a rookie, late start, injured, that sort of a thing. It's tough to catch up. So I think that he can take that step this year, and he's going to get the opportunity to do just that. Tyquan Lewis had 2.5 sacks, I believe, something like that. He's okay as a rotational guy. There's nothing wrong there. I don't really think they need to address defensive end, considering, Kwity Paye 1st round pick last year. Ingbo, second round pick last year, and then bringing in Yannick Ngakoue. I don't think they need to address it. You got to let these guys play. Second round pick Tyquan Lewis, you just got to let them play and work it out. I do think that they're going to have to add, a nose tackle or defensive tackle. Obviously, DeForest Buckner's going to play pretty much every single down. He's a phenomenal player. Grover Stewart, there's nothing wrong with him at all, but I think you're going to need a backup guy or someone that can spell one of or both of these guys. That's why I have it as, one or the other as a need. It's not, it's not a massive need, but you're going to have to grab one or the other to be a backup and a potential for the future. So it's more likely as a nose tackle because, DeForest Buckner is going to be your guy for another few years here. We'll start moving back. They're completely fine at linebacker. Bobby Okereke or Okorike, something like that. I know we've been saying his name wrong for a lot of years, but whatever. He's a quality linebacker, very, very good. And then Darius Leonard's one of the best in the NFL right now. Zaire Franklin is a quality backup. EJ Speed, he can get the job done. I like Malik Jefferson, so they're fine at linebacker completely, if you ask me. I don't touch it whatsoever because you have Okereke and Leonard playing every down and, a couple quality backup and special teams guys to boot. So I'm not worried about linebackers whatsoever. Moving it back to, let's talk about corners. Brandon Faison comes over from the Vegas Raiders. He had a very quality year last year. I believe he was a late round selection, so he's a solid surprise, and he's going to work out and be good for this team, I think. Isaiah Rodgers was a very pleasant surprise for this team last year. He had 49 tackles, 3 interceptions, and I think it was like 8 passes defended, something like that. So that's a very, very, very pleasant surprise from a 6th-round corner. Kenny Moore is one of the better, nickel corners in the game. He might be the best nickel corner in the NFL right now. And he's just a very, very solid leader. But I think they're going to have to add, a guy. They could go with a vet. There's a few solid veteran corners still available on the market. So they could definitely go out there and grab one of those guys. Or address it in the draft, with a 4th, 5th round selection, something like that. We'll see. They could trade down or trade up and get one difference maker. It's hard to say what the Colts are going to do. They could trade back, like I said, and add a little more capital and just fill out these holes and take a few more shots. But, like I said, they could address it in free agency and grab a corner there, and then they're going to be completely fine. So we'll see what they do. There's definitely some options for any team in the NFL that needs a corner. There's a bunch of solid veterans still out there that they could bring in and play meaningful downs this year, and they're not going to be, too concerned about it. So, would you rather spend a 5th round pick, 4th, 5th round pick on a corner, or draft something else that's maybe more of a need and go out and get yourself a solid vet that can play in the NFL right now? So we'll see what they do, but safeties are in a reasonable spot as well. They just brought in Rodney McLeod from the Eagles. I think that he's a very quality safety. He's been in this league a long time. What he can do, and I think he'll be good for this team. If Julian Blackmon, I don't think he was healthy last year, from my memory serves me correctly. So, they needed another guy to spell these guys. Kahari Willis had a very good year. So I think they're fine with what they have right now at safety. Maybe if they want to address it late in the draft, there's no worries there. But bringing in Rodney McLeod, I think just kind of filled out this back end of the roster, except for corner, I do think is a slight need. So there you go. There's kind of my breakdown of the Colts. That's how I feel about them. I think that offensive line needs to be, settled. They have to settle that offensive line first and foremost. You want to protect your older, aging veteran quarterback, who just came in, Matt Ryan. They're definitely going to need some weapons, but there's some guys, like I said, Juice Landry fits like a glove on this team, in my opinion. So bringing a guy like that, they're going to have to add weapons, finalize that offensive line, and then just help out a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. But I think they're okay there. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's your draft prep and team depth chart, breakdown for the 2022 Indianapolis Colts.